The sun was sinking low over the dusty horizon when Eli, a humble rancher, heard heavy footsteps outside his barn. Startled, he turned to find two towering Apache women standing silently, their faces strong but weary, their clothes dusty from travel. They looked intimidating, taller and broader than any woman Eli had ever seen, but there was also hunger in their eyes. Eli didn't dare show fear. He simply tipped his hat and asked if they were hungry. The sisters exchanged a glance and nodded, too proud to beg but too desperate to refuse. Eli, though his pantry was nearly bare, prepared cornbread, beans, and salted pork. The sisters sat on the ground and ate quietly, their powerful frames hunched with exhaustion. They didn't thank him with words, but Eli noticed their eyes soften with something unspoken, respect, maybe even gratitude. When the meal was finished, one of them pointed toward the mountains, speaking in her native tongue. Eli couldn't understand the words, but he felt the weight of her gesture. He had no idea that this simple act of kindness would carry his name into the heart of an Apache camp by sunrise. That night, Eli lay awake, replaying the encounter. Something told him his life had shifted in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The next morning, Eli was mending a broken fence when the rumble of hooves echoed across the plain. A dozen Apache riders appeared, their leader towering above them. He was broad-shouldered, his hair tied back, his face painted with dignity and authority, the chief himself. Eli's heart pounded. Had he done something wrong? Had feeding the sisters been seen as an insult? The riders dismounted, and the two giant sisters stepped forward, whispering quickly to their father. The chief studied Eli for a long moment before breaking into a smile. In a deep, commanding voice, he said through a translator, "You fed my daughters when they had nothing. A man who gives food to my blood is a man of honor." Eli exhaled, relief washing over him. But the chief wasn't finished. He looked at Eli with piercing eyes and added, "Among my people, kindness must be repaid. I offer you a gift, a bride from my tribe. A woman strong, loyal, and worthy. You cannot refuse." Eli's mouth went dry. He hadn't expected payment, let alone marriage. The riders watched him in silence, waiting for his answer. The thought of marrying into an Apache family, of bridging two worlds, filled him with both fear and a strange thrill. The following evening, Eli was led to the Apache camp. The air was alive with firelight, drums, and the low hum of chanting. Children peeked from behind hides, curious about the pale rancher who had stepped into their world. Then she appeared, the chief's chosen bride. She was tall, graceful, and strong like her sisters, her eyes sharp yet filled with warmth. Her hair flowed like black silk down her back, and a beaded necklace glimmered in the firelight. She didn't look at him timidly, nor defiantly, but with a steady calm, as if she had already measured his soul. The chief announced her name, Tala. "She is my daughter, and she will be your wife." Eli felt the weight of the moment crash down on him. He hadn't sought marriage, he hadn't sought love. Yet here was a woman offered as a bond between peoples, a promise forged from one simple act of kindness. Tala walked toward him, her chin held high. She placed her hand over her heart, then extended it toward him. Eli, uncertain, mirrored the gesture. Around them, the tribe cheered. Eli felt the world shift again, more violently this time. What had begun as a meal for strangers had now tied his fate to an Apache woman he barely knew. That night, Eli lay restless in his new tent, listening to the sounds of the Apache camp. Tala sat across from him, weaving beads. Silently. She hadn't spoken much since the ceremony, but her eyes studied him carefully. Eli wondered if this was a test. Would she see him as weak? Would she resent being tied to a rancher? He decided not to speak, but to act. At dawn, he rose early and began helping with camp chores. He hauled water, chopped wood, and even helped corral horses. The Apache men watched, some amused, others skeptical. Eli knew his actions mattered more than his words. By evening, Tala approached him. For the first time, she smiled. "You work," she said in broken English. "Not many men work for what they don't own." Eli chuckled softly, tipping his hat. "Maybe one day it will be ours." Tala tilted her head, considering his words. She seemed to approve. The silent barrier between them thinned, replaced by something new, mutual respect. For the first time since the chief's offer, Eli no longer felt trapped. He began to see Tala not as a bargain forced upon him, but as a woman of strength, honor, and perhaps, hidden kindness. Weeks passed. Eli found himself splitting time between his ranch and the Apache camp. Tala often joined him at the ranch, her hands quick and capable, her presence steady and grounding. His neighbors whispered about the unlikely union, but Eli paid them no mind. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset, Eli finally spoke what had been growing in his heart. Tala, when your father said I couldn't refuse, I felt cornered. But now, he hesitated, struggling to find the right words. Now I can't imagine wanting to. Tala turned, her eyes shimmering in the golden light. I did not want this either, she admitted. But you gave without asking. You worked without pride. That is the man I can walk beside. Eli swallowed hard, realizing this wasn't just an arrangement anymore, it was becoming something real. The rancher who once thought himself alone had gained not just a wife, but a bridge into a world richer and deeper than he had ever known. And in Tala's steady gaze, he saw the promise of a love stronger than fear, stronger than pride, and more lasting than the wide open plains around them.